We are back again. Welcome to our Ranch A.G.F.C, everybody. Mystic, I'm getting you your link. Hopefully, my chat's back on. Here we go. All right. Don't know what the problem was there. And there's the link. There you go, my friend. I'm glad you got your computer up and running. Glad you got your internet. Or are you back at Starbucks? Well, today has been a very eventful day. Battery in the Toyota Camry died on me and stuck me out and had to get home. And yeah, so it was a crazy, crazy day. Crazy getting that battery out of the car. Oh my gosh. So, but I finally did it. So it's going to be a week or so before I can get a new battery. So, with no further ado, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever you are, whoever you are, whenever you are watching this program, this broadcast, this live feed, welcome, Mystic 22222. Are you there, my friend?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Because as you can see, my camera is not turning on, and that's the problem at my end.
Oh, no. Well, okay. Well, I guess we can proceed how I was going to. We can do an electronic reading and then stop and pause and talk about it as we proceed.
That was actually my plan too. I don't have any charts or videos to show you. Of course, if I did, I would post the links. But it has been a week, and actually, almost everything I have is what I was writing the several days before the last program. And I've only got part of that.
Stuck me out. Well, there's your camera.
It is? Oh, look at that. How did that happen?
Look at that. You're back at Starbucks.
Big strut from here.
Yeah. Well, good. Okay.
So it's not Starbucks, actually. I'm outside of Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight, okay.
Yeah.
I love that store.
So do I. That's why we have cutesy nicknames for it.
Yep.
We don't harass people we don't care about.
Well, whoever our two viewers are, welcome to our ranch, A.G.F.C. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box if you like. We just went from 2 to 0.
Oh, no, really?
Yep.
Well, it does look pretty bad here. I mean, I have a terrible backlight. The sun's going down. I have no front lights.
No.
And if I used them, I would drain the battery real quick. I do have a full-size car battery to run the inverter this time.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we will just proceed how I had planned.
All right.
I'm just going to do Genesis 39 through 50.
Okay.
And we're going to do it's just going to be an electronic reading.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go ahead and I can stumble through the verses myself, but I think it'll come out better with the electronic reading.
I have to agree. I'm sorry.
No reason to apologize. So, with no further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Okay.
This is starting at Genesis 39. I think. Okay.
And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, And Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh,
Can you
captain
hear?
of the guard,
Yes.
an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. And he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass, from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand. And he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favored. And it came to pass, after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business.
Now, Joseph is with who now?
She's the wife of the householder, the house owner,
Household.
homeowner.
That's Peripasus, right?
Yeah, he's an
Ra-
officer of the Egyptian government, um, and Joseph is working under him and has been entrusted as a steward of his estate.
Okay.
And there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out.
Good for
And
him.
it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me. And I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. That which he did, the Lord made it to prosper.
Translation.
Genesis chapter 40.
Translation. The prison warden made him his vice warden.
Joseph.
Yep. He couldn't leave the prison, but he now had a job again. And yeah, he was not treated like the other prisoners. He was not given rice full of maggots or anything like that. He took care of the rest of the prisoners.
I see. So he was inside.
Yes.
They called them houseboys.
Yes, basically. More than a houseboy, because again, just like his former master, he's actually given stewardship.
I
Thing
see.
is, this part of the story is a bridge between when he was sold into slavery and when he was made vice king.
I see.
Now, yeah, now Egypt's king is called a pharaoh. But this is at a time when Egypt was not an empire. It was just another kingdom. It was
Okay.
it was Joseph and his saving the world through Egypt that actually turned Egypt into the empire that it was ever after that. Now you're going
Right.
through chapter 39. That's going to include after the famine. That's when
After.
that's
Yes,
when his brothers come. Is that
I
right?
believe so.
I'm not
Yes.
remembering exactly. That's important because
This is
here,
well, chapter 39 is um Joseph and Potiphar's house. Um and then so this is after the famine.
yeah. Oh,
And this is when he this is right this is before his interpretations of Pharaoh's dreams.
yeah, which means it's well before the famine.
Yes.
Okay. So let me go ahead and tell the top down story, the outline. Okay.
Okay.
So for those who don't know the story, Joseph is the youngest of 10 brothers, and let's see, actually 12 brothers this time. Later, there's a 13th. Each of the brothers has had. There's an awful lot we're missing here, skipping over, but each of the brothers has chosen a star formation, an astrological sign, as their representation in the skies. This is before astrology. This is back when people still used God's calendar, and God's calendar is in the constellations, and they are meant to be a big clock. They were not meant for fortune telling. That's a
I
corruption
see.
that came later. And so Joseph is the youngest of these brothers, but he is born with a special sign, and he has an ability to understand the meaning of special dreams. We're not talking ordinary psychological dreams where you're trying to run away from the monster in slow motion and you're not dressed for some reason and so forth. That's not what this is about.
Okay.
He has very bizarre dreams. Everybody thinks they have weird dreams. I'll tell you what's weird dreams. Okay. I had a
Okay.
dream where I went to the library and I went down to the magazine rack and I saw a magazine that hadn't been posted yet. And I picked it up and I started reading the article word for word. And the next day, the exact same thing happened, word for word. That's a weird dream. Okay. If you haven't had a dream like
That's
that, you haven't
well.
had a weird dream.
Well, it's called pathetic, isn't it? A pathetic dream.
Yes, yes, except for this. A prophetic dream would be a word from God warning you about something. And this was absolutely trivial, had absolutely no importance whatsoever, other than to impress with me the fact that science doesn't have all the answers. Because there's no other way of saying, hey, I just saw words on a printed page that was still in the shipping box being taken into the library as I'm sleeping and being unpacked and put on the magazine rack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That entire morning, I dreamed. That entire morning, I dreamt as a vivid dream, as a lucid dream. And I actually thought I had gotten up in the morning, had breakfast, walked down to the library, all that stuff.
Actually, thought you
Um,
did that.
yeah, I thought I did that, and then I woke up, and then I did it, and it played out every step of it.
Wow.
You know, so so it was discovered when Joseph came to the point where he could start talking as a toddler that he would tell his dreams. They were very simple dreams, and then they would happen. And then his family would have dreams, and they were symbolic dreams. And this little toddler who didn't even have the language yet would explain what the dream meant. And then when he was a very young man, let's say a tweener or early teen, he had a couple of dreams that were not very complimentary to his family. And one of these dreams, all the stars, I don't know that even the other translations really explain it well. King James certainly doesn't. But they say that he said that the stars bowed down to him. And what he actually meant by that you can't find just in reading that text, is he was talking about the constellations like Leo and Virgo and Capricorn. Those constellations bowed down to his constellation and to him.
Okay.
And the brothers basically interpreted that correctly, that one day they would be bowing down to him. And it infuriated them because he had been his father and mother were playing favorites with him. There was favoritism of the most extreme kind, including giving him a colorful coat that he didn't actually really need. They just gifted him all these things. We're talking serious expenses, right? So first of all, the brothers were extremely jealous. Secondly, he's not a man yet, so he's wimpy kind of and weak. He's more than eager, but he's also not very competent. But most of all, he has high integrity. And he snitches on his brothers when they go when they leave the sheep behind and go play, downtown.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's these things were, and then the father still can't find any fault in him, right?
Right.
So this is what finally brought them to such extreme jealousy and hatred, almost as bad as my two little girls, that they faked his death and sold him into. They actually wanted to kill him, and they just couldn't quite bring themselves to do it. So they faked his death and got they got their 13 pieces of silver for him. So then he goes off to Egypt in chains. Then they put him to work polishing floors or something, and he gets down on the floor and he polishes like a sailor being punished. And the overseer was getting praise for driving his slave so hard, and then the overseer is actually kind of honest and says, "Actually, I didn't do anything. He's just a hard worker. I don't need any other workers. He's doing it all." And then the other workers hate him. Okay, he's making them look bad.
Just because of he is who he is, people end up hating him.
Well, at this point, they don't even know about his special dream ability. So now we reach this point where, because this officer was responsible for the upkeep of the castle. That's why he's scrubbing floors, tiles, alabaster. Okay. And he leaves his wife in charge of him. Well, his wife is I guess he's just not spending enough time with her, and she decides that she gets to have some, and she's going to use whatever she's got at hand, and he makes her look bad. Okay, he makes a huge scene by yelling and running out of there, and she's screaming and he's running away, and she has to explain this somehow to the other servants. She can't take any blame for this, right?
So she ends up trying to set him up.
Yeah, because one way or another, her husband's going to kill somebody for this.
Right.
So she's got to play it on him. So he runs off, and so, of course, the man is furious because he feels betrayed. He thinks he's actually been betrayed. He's given him stewardship of all his wealth, and he did really, really well. In every way, he showed himself trustworthy, and then all of a sudden, he tries to rape his wife. Okay. So then he's paranoid, thinking, "Oh, this guy's really clever, covering up for himself and wheedling himself into my good graces and my trust." So he throws him into prison, but he too can't bring himself to kill him.
Mhm.
Well, then in the prison, he's impressing the warden. That's the we're calling for it, the warden. So much the warden makes him steward of the prison.
People love to hate him, don't they?
Well, they misunderstand him a lot,
They misunderstand him.
and and
They
also
don't know
he's
whether to love him or hate him.
well, they do once his dreams start pointing out their secrets, they know it's time to hate him.
Yeah.
So the part you've reached in the story is that he's going to be he's going to have two prisoners, a baker and the king's food taster. Baker, he's a baker. They call him a baker. He bakes, but he's also the king's food taster.
I understand.
That is the pharaoh's food taster.
Yeah.
Now at this point, he's still a king, even though they call him pharaoh. That's just their name for it. Um, uh, Shortly before the king has his strange dream, um, he has a dream, or the baker and the the baker and the other one, they have strange dreams, and they're sitting around there not having anything else to do because they're in prison.
Right.
And he tells them, "I know what your dreams mean." Then he gets really, really, really sad, and he tells the baker, "See, no, I'm sorry." He tells the king's steward. The king's steward was also falsely accused,
Hmm.
and he tells him, "Don't worry, the king will be sending for you shortly, and he will not only exonerate you, but you will actually get a promotion." And then he turns to the baker and he says, "I'm really terribly sorry. King is calling for you too for your execution."
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a few days later, the king has his weird dream. Well, of course, the word has really gotten out around the staff. All the guards, soldiers, accountants, everybody's heard about this. The word travels fast. And so then he sends for Joseph, and Joseph gives him the dream. Oh, and here's the thing. You're about to get to the part where he can't remember the dream. So he
Mm.
calls for astrologers, the ones that are supposed to know everything. Well, of course, they're scam artists for the most part. And if they do have connections with the other side of the spiritual realm, um, they're going to be blocked from there. They're going to have their
Right.
information
And
sources
that
blocked.
and that pretty much is where he calls Joseph from prison. And
Yes. Well, but and they call for him from prison because the king's about to cut their head off. They don't tell him the dream and its interpretation. And what gives it away is they say, "Well, if you just tell us the dream, we'll tell you what it means." And he says,
right.
if you were real psychics, you would know what it was." You know, everybody, listen to this. If you believe in soothsayers, palm readers, psychics, mediums, here's what you need to realize. When you go to see those people and you ask them for your fortune, why do they have to ask questions about you?
Right. Right.
Why do they have to ask what you're here for? They should know what you're here for. They should say, put it there in the pot, and I'll tell you what I've been told by
Right. Right.
okay?
Right.
Bugs Bunny
See,
saying, "Sees all, blabs all."
she's all blabs all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and all you see the biggest thing with all of them is it's all about the green,
yeah.
and then they'll tell you anything you want.
So the short end of this is that he has the two dreams. One about seven fat, healthy cows being literally eaten by seven skinny, dying cows, being eaten alive.
Okay.
And he has a dream about two cornfields, one strong and healthy, and the other one withering, and the withering cornfield kills the other one.
All right.
And this is about the warning that they are about to start 7 years of heavy rains and heavy harvest, followed by 7 years of no rain and famine.
Okay.
So the king is because he's able to call up the dream that the king and cannot even tell what it is. He tells the king the dream he had. Then the king can remember it. Then he gives him an interpretation that means something to him. He immediately knows that is the correct interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that was actually given to him in the dream.
Okay.
So then he realizes he is not competent to carry all of Egypt through a famine of 7 years. So he literally, like all the officers before him, he literally gives Joseph the stewardship of Egypt. And the king says, "You will obey Joseph as if he was me, and I'm just going to retire, and I'm just going to sit back here and down my grapes and have my fun, but I'm not going to rule anymore. He's going to rule from now on. Whatever he says, you do." So Joseph became acting Pharaoh. Here's the thing. Because they saved up food for 7 years, and it was double the amount, so they actually saved up 14 years worth of Egypt's food. They had enough to carry all the other neighboring nations around Egypt. All the other nations went bankrupt. All the other nations lost all their citizens as they came struggling like zombies to Egypt for food, and gave Egypt all the wealth they had in exchange for that food. And that is why Egypt became a great empire.
Let's see.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Let's go ahead and get back into the story.
Yeah.
And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. In the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner, when thou wast his butler. But think on me, when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants, and he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him. Genesis chapter 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-fleshed. And they fed in a meadow.
A moment.
And behold, 7 other kine.
The word kine, this is an ancient English word, and it shows you how you just can't read the King James Version and understand it. The word kine means cow.
Cow.
These were 7 cows. That's what they were. Okay.
Okay.
That's why even if it's less accurate overall, the New English Version or New International Version is more easily understood.
Yes. Because in the New English Version it says, and lo, from the Nile there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed in the marsh grasses.
There you go.
So
much more sense.
King James Version, they call them kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, it's funny, and you have to do your studying to understand how words are put into the New King James Version compared to the New English. Because in my New English Bible, it clearly states cow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the time that we are in now is most people simply do not have time to do those kind of studies anymore.
I understand.
That's why they need our help.
Yeah, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yes.
All right, let's get back into it.
Yep.
Came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the 2nd time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh.
Pause a moment.
Then spake the chief.
I do have to take something back here. I mixed up 2 different stories. I was thinking of Nebuchadnezzar was the one who the king who could not remember his dream at all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this Pharaoh did remember his dream. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he did they give the name of this Pharaoh?
Pharaohs are not normally known by their names, actually.
I understand. Yeah.
And the one Pharaoh they did give the name of was not the Pharaoh that was in power at the time of the Exodus. It was just a reference to the fact that it was his land.
So they don't actually give the name of this Pharaoh.
No, he's just Pharaoh. It's like you don't call your father by his real name.
I do.
Yeah. Well, I got into a lot of trouble at school when I couldn't tell them my parents' names
Yeah.
because my parents were so strict about that.
Bob Childers has only been a sperm donor.
Yeah. I had to go back home and ask them what it was, and I had to explain. I had to bring a letter back from my mom explaining, yes, we never actually told them our names, and that's just our family tradition, right?
Yeah.
because it would show disrespect. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the school was kind of concerned that a child does not know his parents' names, and which is a problem if you get lost or kidnapped. How do you tell the
Right.
police where you live or who you belong to? Right? How do they even start to look for? I don't believe in that policy, but there it is.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. Let's go ahead.
So we left off on verse 5.
Yeah,
But
apologize for that little mix.
Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream did he interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph. And they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee, that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine, and when they'd eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man, discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt. The land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Pioneer. And he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil, and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim. For God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. Genesis chapter 42.
So, this is the significance in this last few verses of 7 years.
Uh-huh.
7 years throughout the Bible is significant.
More than you know.
Enlighten me a little bit.
Here's what we now know through science. The sun drives the weather.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, sun and moon.
Yeah, but the sun provides the energy and determines how much water is evaporated from the oceans into the air, and subsequently how much rain there is that year.
Correct.
There is a 3.5-year cycle, a 7-year cycle, 11-year cycle, a 50-year cycle, a 250-year cycle. And when those cycles line up, you get some very extreme weather. I think it's 490 years. Let me correct that. It's about not 500, it's 490 years. So when the 490-year cycle lines up with the 50-year cycle, which lines up with the 7-year cycle, you're going to have some extreme rain followed by extreme drought.
Yeah.
Okay? This has occurred over and over and over the last several thousand years. The last time it occurred was in the biblical scale floods and drought that occurred, when was it? I slippery on which decade it was. But we had a decade of extreme drought before this one. This one that we're going through now is not on the calendar. Okay? In fact, the entire world is going through this. Well, it went through it before too. But this is the worst, and it is not directly related to those rhythms. This is different. It is perhaps man-made through HARP or something like that. And of course, geoengineering in general. And but the previous
that's out of Germany, isn't it?
No, the American HARP is in Alaska.
Alaska, but
it has a HARP? It has a multi-megawatt nuclear generator that operates the radio transmitters at a phased array. And since we started doing that, and of course we publish all our stuff in the patents library, then lots of other countries have jumped on board and weaponized the weather, and that's part of the reason why the whole world's weather is going wacky.
Wow.
And there's some other things involved too. But the thing here is that when we put it in a computer and run the cycles back, this period that Joseph lived through was one of those periods.
Okay.
And it was one of the most severe.
Yeah.
So it happens regularly now. We can see it coming. Okay. But we can't see it coming if we're causing it. The last several years, the supercomputers have been extremely accurate as to the weather forecast, but over the last 2 years, that's gone out the window, and now we no more see the weather coming the next week than we did back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I don't know. How would you say? Walter McKinney. McKinney?
I think it's
welcome
McKinney.
To our.
I believe
McKinney.
It's
welcome to our ranch.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stream.
It's a Scottish
we're
name.
gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and get back into it. We are in Genesis chapter 42.
With comments.
So we're going to get back into it.
Now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die.
Jacob is the father.
And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with him.
Jacob is the father of Joseph.
Yes, and also of the other 9 brothers.
And the other 9, or actually, isn't there 11 brothers? Isn't Jacob?
There will be.
Oh, okay, all right.
His brethren, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them. but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies. To see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them, That is that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother. And ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies.
That got his brothers shaking in their boots, didn't it?
Well, like Walter said, this was the dream of the stars bowing down to him.
Yes, yes.
And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the 3rd day, This do and live, for I fear God. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses, but bring your youngest brother unto me. So shall your words be verified, and he shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear? Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about from them, and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Simeon, and bound him before their eyes.
That whole situation just shook the heck out of him, didn't it?
Well, it sure makes quite a drama in the movie.
You know, and his brothers have got to be just
Terrified.
terrified, full of anxiety.
Well,
Because one of them is sitting in prison right now, right?
not just that. They know that they are being punished by God because of what they did to Joseph.
Yes.
So they're carrying that heavy guilt. And in fact, the youngest son that Jacob refused to allow to go because he was terrified he would never see him again, his brothers, for a change, treated him as favored, trying to compensate for their sin, for their guilt.
Yeah.
So they had 180 degrees changed their attitude towards the youngest son, and now they're
I'd imagine.
having their lives put on the line for doing exactly what his father was most afraid of.
Yeah.
And they're afraid that they're going to do it again. They're going to bring the youngest to harm.
And that's the one that's sitting in prison right now, right?
No, I think that's the oldest one, actually. No, they
Oh,
have to go back to Jacob and bring the youngest boy that Jacob would not allow to go.
I see. Okay.
See? And
Okay.
on pain of death, because if they don't, if they're judged to be traitors, the soldiers will come and wipe out
That
the
is
whole
right.
family where they live.
That is right. So the existing youngest brother,
Yeah,
not Joseph,
that's
but
correct.
the second youngest, because
Yes, exactly.
Joseph was the youngest,
Yes, exactly.
and so the second youngest brother is back with um the father.
Yes.
Oh,
And Joseph has not yet met him, does not know him,
does not
but
know him yet.
he desperately wants to see him.
Okay, let's get back into
Go
it.
ahead.
Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money. For behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored. And lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God hath done unto us?
Mhm.
And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, The man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, We are true men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father, one is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone, and bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said unto them, Me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and he will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which ye go, then shall he bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Genesis chapter 43. And the famine was sore in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you.
Yep.
And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us straitly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the ruler of his house, Bring these men home, and slay, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen, and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food, and it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. And we have brought it again in our hand, and other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, Peace be to you, fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender.
Maybe you can answer this question. Who is Simeon?
He was one of the other brothers. I think he might have been the oldest. I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth.
Oh, by the way,
And he asked them of their welfare, and said,
when they say bread, remember that they were storing corn, right?
Yes.
So it was cornbread. Yummy.
Cornbread. Yummy. I thought Judas was the
You may be right. I'm not
Judas.
solid on who Simeon was.
Okay. Walter, maybe you can enlighten us if you know that question, the answer to that question. Oh, oh,
That's okay. That was a really good insight.
yeah.
Is your father well, the old man of whom he spake? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant, our father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads, and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom ye spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber, and wept there. And he washed his face, and went out, and refrained himself, and said, Set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves,
Quick
because
note.
the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews.
Okay, so Reuben was the oldest. Thank you, Walter. So you see what's happening here is Joseph is playing one heck of a game of poker.
Hmm. Judas was the fourth son. Judah was the fourth son. Okay.
So he's
That
keeping
is
a
an
poker
abomination.
face.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, he's trying to keep his composure so he can keep them on the line.
Yes.
Unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled one at another. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. Genesis chapter 44. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil in so doing. And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be thy Lord's bondmen. And he said, Now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched, and began at the eldest, and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes, and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said unto them, What deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? And Judah said, What shall we say unto my lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we, and he also, with whom the cup is found. And he said, God forbid that I should do so. But the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O my lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My lord asked his servants, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? And we said unto my lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one. And his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we said unto my lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, ye shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my lord. And our father said, Go again, and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother be with us, then will we go down. For we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant my father said unto us, Ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons. And the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if he take this also from me, and mischief befall him, he shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And thy servants shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying,
A quick note.
If I bring him not unto thee, then
So what's being pointed out here is that Jacob had had at least 2 wives.
Okay. Yeah.
The first 10 boys were born of another mother. So Joseph and Benjamin were born of his second mother after the first one had passed. That means they were half brothers. And this was another thing that the other 10 brothers held against them, was that they were not full brothers. The oldest brother always inherits the property. The next 9 brothers, well, they inherit some portion of the property. And here it looked like Joseph was going to inherit the property instead of the oldest, which is another reason why they needed to get rid of him.
Walter's saying Leah and Rachel.
Uh-huh. Now, my wife's name was Leah.
Okay.
So there you go. Walter knows his stuff.
It seems to be that way. Well, welcome,
Welcome.
Walter.
Welcome to the family, Walter.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you very much.
See you back.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and continue.
Yep.
I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore, I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come on my father. Genesis chapter 45. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you, to preserve life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not, and thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks and thy herds, and all that thou hast, and there will I nourish thee. For yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaketh unto you. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that ye have seen. And ye shall haste, and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren, and wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked with him. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come. And it pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto thy brethren, This do ye, lade your beasts and go, get you unto the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. Now thou art commanded, this do ye, take you wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father, and come. Also regard not your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the children of Israel did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of raiment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of raiment. And to his father he sent after this manner: 10 asses laden with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-asses laden with corn and bread and meat for his father by the way. So he sent his brethren away, and they departed. And he said unto them, See that ye fall not out by the way. And they went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die. Genesis chapter 46. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle and their goods which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok and Phalu and Hezron and Carmi, and the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin and Ohad and Jachin and Zohar and Shael, the son of a Canaanitish woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Judah, and Onan, and Shelah, and Phares, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Phares were Hezron and Hamel. And the sons of Issachar, Tola, and Phuvah, and Job, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Serad, and Elon, and Jaleel. These be the sons of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob in Padanaram with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion, and Haggai, Shunai, and Esbon, Eri, and Arodi, and Arilai. And the sons of Asher, Jimnah, and Ishua, and Isui, and Beriah, and Sarah their sister, and the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bare unto Jacob, even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph, and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, and Becher, and Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman, Ehi, and Rosh, Muppim, and Huppim, and Ard.
Now, these are all These are all the children of Jacob's sons, right?
Yes, of all the brothers. Now, this doesn't sound like anything important to us. The only thing we need to note here is that these, okay, just as today we are known by our last names according to our ancestors, those names continued later. And as Walter pointed out, this is how the 12 tribes of Israel came to have their names. Now, this is very early in the story. Because they were living in Egypt as an empire, they were participating merchants and builders of Egypt. They became the great construction workers. However, this story basically ends on a happy note. But then the next pharaoh, when the pharaoh dies, it's not his son that takes over. It's another pharaoh. I'm a little hazy on how that happened, but the new pharaoh doesn't know any of this story, nor cares to know, has no idea that Egypt is under Jehovah. So,
what does he care?
He's the one who started mistreating them as slaves.
Okay.
And during this time, the Israelites, or the Hebrews, they are blessed with super reproducibility. Their population is growing at a rate that has never seen before. And all of these brothers have the same size families that their father had. So you go 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Within a few generations, they outnumber the Egyptians.
The Egyptians,
and yet they are still
the rest of the land.
And yet, yes, and yet because they have such a strong family values as followers of Jehovah and will not worship any other gods, they remain culturally separate. And the new pharaoh, of course, makes the assumption that if they're capable of overthrowing us, they will overthrow us. Strength means might makes right, and strength makes conquerors.
Yeah.
So he came to the conclusion that unless he killed all the firstborn of Egypt, they were going to replace the Egyptians. Okay. So he fed them. So he fed the babies to the alligators.
Wow.
So then the pharaoh that followed him came basically to the same conclusion. And of course, he's carrying a heavy burden of guilt over this from his father, but comes to the same conclusion. And that's when Moses came in. They became slaves, then entered the Exodus. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So Moses, the Hebrew, was snuck in there and replaced one of Pharaoh's sons, basically, and was adopted. But without knowing he was Hebrew. Okay. And so by this time, Egypt had forgotten, because of this Pharaoh, Egypt had forgotten Jehovah and had begun chasing after other gods again. And this was in essence after all that was done for them to take them from a simple kingdom to a great empire, the very first really of the empires, that was a betrayal to God. And that's why God set up this, hardened Pharaoh's heart and set up this battle where they were going to be crushed for their insubordination by having their new gods totally humiliated.
I
Each and
see. Okay.
every plague in Egypt was very specific to the thing that their gods controlled.
Right.
Okay, so he absolutely dominated them and left them no doubt whatsoever who the real God was.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so then when Moses takes the 12 tribes of Israel of Jacob basically with him, that's how they are organized, and each of those tribes by then had grown to 144,000 members of
Wow.
those tribes, each of them. So
Wow.
12 times 144,000. That's how many
44,000.
Hebrews survived that what do we call it today? What the Jews went through with the Germans when the Jews were slaughtered by the Germans. We call that the what do we call it?
Genocide.
Well, yeah, but that it's more specific. Holocaust.
Holocaust. Okay.
Yeah. So the 12 times 144,000 were those who had, well, it was partly those who had survived the Holocaust. That's right. Thank you, Walter. We finally got it.
Hol-
And yes, the chat is real slow. That's why you don't get to jump in there in time. So, but then also they grafted on a lot of the Egyptians were converts to Yehovah and came out with them. And then, of course, a very large portion of those were the ones who brought back the golden calf worship, which in fact was child
mhm.
sacrifice worship.
Which we'll get into in Exodus.
Well, yeah, well, we did get into it coming through Revelation, we referred to it.
Oh, that's right. No.
Yeah.
But in in this new uh, beginning, the beginning of
Yes.
Genesis, the
Yes.
the first comes in through Exodus, right?
Yes. And then, of course, in these last days, that those all of those patterns will repeat together at the same time, which is why it's so important for us to learn those patterns, as Walter's pointing out.
You know. Okay, let's get back into
Yep.
this so we can.
These are the sons of Rachel, which were born to Jacob. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim. And the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, and Gunai, and Jezer, and Shillem. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave unto Rachel his daughter. And she bare these unto Jacob. All the souls were 7. All the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66. And the sons of Joseph, which were born him in Egypt, were 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 70. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph, to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade hath been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? That he shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth, even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. Genesis chapter 47. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh, and said, My father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they have are come out of the land of Canaan. And behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brethren, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brethren, What is your occupation? And they said unto Pharaoh, Thy servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, For to sojourn in the land are we come. For thy servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine.
Now, Walter, I'm confused about this statement that Joseph is a precursor to Christ. Do you know what he's saying there?
Well, there's actually been several precursors. The primary precursor, of course, was Moshe, known as Moses. He was the he was the greatest of the prophets for the Hebrews, but they were promising that an even greater prophet than Moses would come. So that was the primary precursor. But there's been many precursors in terms of the function that they performed for the people at their particular time of need.
Okay. All right.
But I would like to hear what Alter's talking about specifically.
Yeah, Walter, maybe if you can, he says, yep. Maybe if you can clarify a little bit further. Why does that keep happening? It keeps popping up the first statement he makes after I
Yep.
put up his last. Oh, well.
The computer has its own idea about what's interesting.
Right. Let's go ahead and continue.
Is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Jacob, How old art thou? And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have the days of the years of my life been, and have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren, and all his father's household with
Okay,
bread,
one moment.
according to their families.
So as you just heard, the text in the Bible says the land of Ramses, which was one of the pharaohs. It was not. This was not Ramses, and Ramses was not the pharaoh in Moses' time. This is another case where the Bible translators were narrating instead of interpreting, because and in fact they're actually referring to a much earlier text where the Hebrew texts themselves were trying to explain to each other back in the world when a lot of people didn't even remember what Egypt was, because Egypt collapsed. It totally collapsed after Moses, because they had taken out not only the Pharaoh and his son, and as I pointed out in a previous program, the body in the casket they're calling King Tut or Tutankhamun, that was not the Pharaoh. That was the Pharaoh's son that died when the firstborn were died under the God's curse, under the plagues of Egypt, when the firstborn died. And Pharaoh himself went chasing after Moses, and was buried in the sea. And
Yeah.
because and along with that was
His whole army.
his
His whole army also.
and all the priests of all those false gods.
Hmm.
So he essentially wiped out all of Egypt's leadership. All that was left was the Pharaoh's queen, and she actually ended up writing a letter to their enemy in the north, saying, "Please send one of your children to marry me because I have no one to marry. I'm not going to marry my maid servant, my servant, my my groom. I'm not going to marry anybody here. Nobody's worthy here." And they wouldn't do it because they thought it was a trap. They still didn't know
Oh,
Egypt had completely fallen. So, yeah, Egypt was wiped out for a couple of hundred years after that. They just were not. They
wow.
were no longer. It took time for the world to find out that they no longer had an overlord. Because there was no internet, no telephone. Not even the fast horse or camel. So, uh, the body in the casket that people are calling King Tut that's actually the face of the pharaoh that is at the bottom of the Red Sea.
I see. Okay.
And yes, they correctly identified him
Fascinating.
as a boy king. The reason for this is because Egypt has always been a country that is so long and so narrow that it takes two rulers, one from each end, to rule the whole country.
Hmm.
So the southern palace is where the pharaoh actually lived and ruled from, and his son would be ruling from the other end, and they would send messages back and forth as to what was to be done. And so, yes,
Hmm.
the
Did
king,
not know this.
yes. So Tutankhamun was in fact a boy king, but he was not. He was a king of an empire, and his father was the emperor.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah, well, even the Egyptologists don't
But
understand this.
I mean, Tutankhamun came way after all this, right?
No, Tutankhamun was the boy who was the son of the pharaoh who died as the result of the plague of the loss of the firstborn.
Okay.
And so there was also no heir to the throne.
I didn't know this either, Walter. So I learn a
Nobody
lot.
does.
I learn every Sunday. Every Sunday, I learn something new
Yeah,
from Mr.
you,
Mystic 22222.
you are going to have a hard time researching this. The book that covers the subject it actually comes from the wife of the late what was his name? The man who actually rediscovered Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant's location, the crossing of the Red Sea location. All of those things he found and are now known. And in fact, Egypt is now building a new mega city at the base of Mount, um, where the Ten Commandments were shouted down. Um,
Sinai.
Sinai, the true Mount Sinai, not the Mount
Yeah.
Sinai they tell you it is, because
Yeah.
there's also a false history behind that. So yeah, the whole thing is a mess, and now the truth is coming out, and the documents are there. The ancient documents in the land where these things were left behind, these are being documented and brought out. It's going to be a while before any of this becomes mainstream, by which time everybody's going to be more concerned about nukes being thrown around.
Right.
But Egypt's plan is to create a super um, tourist attraction for the whole world to come and see.
I do too, Walter. It's just so fascinating. Always
Yeah,
has been the Bible.
yeah.
And
Let me
yeah,
let me address his last message. Yes, Walter. Here's another thing that we know. You are using the word Yahweh, and I understand that. I'm okay with that. I used to use that same term as well. The reason for that is because we only had the four consonants of his name, because the Old Testament was written with consonants separated by vowel points. The vowels are not letters in Hebrew; they are vowel points that go between the vowels, not the consonants. Okay, and
So
we did cover.
did
Yeah,
Did Yahweh come from Yahiwah?
yeah, it comes from our best guess several years ago. Several years ago, we took those four letters and made our best guess as to how to pronounce it, and it just happened to be incorrect. Since then, we have found examples of Yehovah with the correct vowel pointings, thousands of them, by the way, just in the last few years. And Bryan and I covered that early in this series, which started, 7 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So you want to go back to episode 1, where Bryan is showing these episodes with a bright blue and white heavenly vision of the sky of heaven. Look for those on his channel, and start with episode 1. Skip over episodes 2 and 3 because those were extreme technological interferences, which just happened to synchronize the whole lesson plan with the actual Bible prophecies coming true each and every day of the last few weeks.
Yep.
Okay, so we have had
it's been a struggle.
Yeah,
But
well,
we pulled through it.
We struggled with Hasatan, or Satan, interfering with us, but it turns out, like always, he himself was being manipulated to God's benefit and made it the best thing possible.
I think he never told Moses his name. He just said, "I am."
Okay.
That I am.
All right. So let me address that. Okay. This is an interpretation problem. I will start this way. The Heavenly Father refers to himself as Yah, which in Hebrew means I exist or I am. Okay. Remember Rene Descartes, the mathematician who was struggling to figure out how he could mathematically prove that he himself existed? Okay. This is a big philosopher thing. He finally came to the conclusion, I think, therefore I am. Okay. Now, in Hebrew, that is Yah. Now, that name was actually known before Moses. Okay. But it was not, so Yahovah means I am, always have been, and always will be.
Okay.
Okay. And that is how he wants us to refer to him. Yehovah.
Okay.
Now, when Moses is told that he has to go up before Pharaoh, where the Tetragrammaton, yes. So when he's told by Yehovah that he must go before Pharaoh and tell him there is a new God and he has to let my people go so they can come worship me, something Pharaoh would understand because everybody's got to worship their God. Then,
what is this tetra Walter's talking about?
Short for Tetragrammaton.
What is Tetragrammaton? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's kind of, it has a complicated background, like it sounds like, but it basically comes down to the name of God.
Okay.
Okay. It's not referring to the fish.
Okay.
Okay. So Yehovah says to him, there's obviously a little bit missing from the text that's not there, right? So he basically says, remember the great I am? I am that I am.
Yeah.
That is the I am that I am.
This is why down the line in the New Testament, Jesus refers to himself as I am.
That's correct.
I am the great I am.
That's right. So we covered this too, Bryan. When give me a moment. When the text says I am that I am, This is not Popeye speaking.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's not said that way. It says, I am that I am. And since you didn't hear what came before that, you have no idea what he's talking about.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
So he is Yah, I am. And you will call me, I am, always have been, always will be. Yehovah.
Yahweh.
Okay?
Yahovah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Walter, for bringing that up again, because it's a
Okay.
common point of confusion. This is
All
one of
right.
the yeah.
Let's go ahead and get back into this.
All right.
And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle, if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, We will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent. My lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread. And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed, that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase, that ye shall give the 5th part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food for your little ones. And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. And they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph, and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt, but I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said.
Hold a minute.
And he said, Swear unto me.
So when he says he put your hand under my thigh, he's talking about a swearing ceremony. where he will swear an oath. And what is under your thigh?
What is under your thigh?
Mm-hmm.
Your butt?
Yeah. And
Um, your leg?
well, the
I
thigh is the leg. Where the
okay.
legs come together, the
Where the legs
loins.
come, the loins, the hip.
Yes. Okay. So, in modern parlance, when we go before the court, we testify.
Okay.
Well, it's not nearly as serious as it once was. There was a time, a long time ago, when you were testifying, you were swelling upon your testicles that you were telling the truth. If you were found to be a liar, you were going to become a eunuch.
Oh wow!
Okay.
I didn't know that.
So this is where comes from. This comes from even before that time when they put his when the person being sworn to is putting his hand under the other person's thigh, he's taking an oath from that person.
Got it.
That's what it
Okay.
refers to. Go ahead.
Okay.
And he sware unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. Genesis chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. And thy issue, which thou begettest after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephrath. And I buried her there in the way of Ephrath. The same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn, put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, Behold, I die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite, with my sword and with my bow. Genesis chapter 49. And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel. Because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiledst thou it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret. Unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk.
Quick note.
Zebulun shall dwell at the haven.
Sounds like delicious clothing, doesn't it?
Right?
Yummy, yummy.
Grapes and milk and
Just don't get too close to an open flame.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Just a quick note for those who don't know. So Judah, this is the ancestor of the land of the tribe of Judah, which then took possession of the land known as Judah,
Okay.
from which we get the word Jews.
Jews.
The last surviving Hebrews, the ones that did not wander off into the wilderness after they had turned their backs on Jehovah. It was Israel and Judah, and those two fought with each other until the fall of the the last temple. And then in these modern times, they are brought together in harmony because they have long since forgotten their squabbles.
Okay.
All as prophecy. Go ahead.
Of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass, couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people, as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Benjamin shall ravin as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it that their father spake unto them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. Genesis chapter 50. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 60 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. In my grave, which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore, let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up, and bury thy father according as he made thee swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt.
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
When did Jacob's name turn to Israel?
It didn't. They were talking. Those are different.
Why are they referring Joseph's father as Israel?
Like I said, they take on the name of their ancestor as their last name in their tribe. It's a tribal thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why he's referring his father as Israel.
Yeah. One other quick thing is that when the Jews were scattered in the diaspora, they could no longer use the coin of the realm because they were scattered all over the world. So they had to come up with their own money, and they created money out of precious things, and it's called jewelry. Those things which are made by the Jews. Yeah, God changed it after he wrestled him. Yeah, there's some name changes in there you have to pay attention to, or you lose track of who is who.
Okay.
Just like Abram became Abraham, and Saul
Okay.
became Paul.
Okay. Just need a little clarification on that.
There's a lot of clarification needed all over the place here.
I know.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, "This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians." Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, "Joseph will peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him." And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, "Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall he say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father." And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face. And they said, "Behold, we be thy servants." And Joseph said unto them, "Fear not, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish you and your little ones." And he comforted them, and spake kindly unto them.
A note here.
And Joseph dwelt in.
This is the best example of what Walter is trying to say, that Joseph was a precursor of Jesus Christ. He was the first to ever. He's the first one you hear the whole concept of forgiveness.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense now.
Okay,
That makes sense to me. Okay.
very good.
Egypt, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children also of Machir the son of Manasseh were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said unto his brethren, "I die, and God will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, "God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence." So Joseph died, being 110 years old. And they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt.
Quick note.
The second book.
Okay. Here is another piece of news, very recently discovered.
Okay.
They found a tomb in Egypt, and it was an empty tomb. It was not a pyramid or a ziggurat, but it was a tomb in the earth. And in this tomb, they found a large statue. And the statue, is heavily faded, It was clearly colored, of flesh color, and paint, face paint, like an Egyptian,
Mm-hmm.
but it's wearing a coat of many colors. When Moses was freed to go, they picked up Joseph's body in a casket, embalmed, still intact, and they took it with them into the promised land. And it's in
Wow.
Israel now. It's now in Israel.
Wow. Did not know that.
Hmm. Well, it was a relatively recent discovery.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's another one of those things that disproves the theory that there was no such thing as an Exodus.
Well, speaking of Exodus, this will be Wednesday's beginning. Um, Walter, we are live uh, Sundays and Wednesdays with these Bible readings. And we will be starting the book of Exodus on Wednesday. So if you happen to be free and you can join us at 4 o'clock, you're more than welcome. And you can find all the rest of the videos. You can go back to them. If you go to on YouTube, you go to our Ranch Air Gun Fun channel. You will be able to, and you go to the live events. You'll be able to go back and rewatch this whole series.
Those are the
That
ones with the bright blue and white sky image.
yes, yes, it'll be
And
a
we start. This
bright.
started out when Brian asked me to explain Revelation, and of course, it just isn't as simple as that because Revelation is a template that points back to all the other prophecies.
Right.
So I started out with the intent of explaining how to interpret prophecy.
Is that coming
Uh,
from you?
yeah, it's my cell phone.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, see, it's my cell phone being used as a hotspot is the only reason I'm able to connect to you.
I see. Okay, great. Well, that concludes our reading for tonight, and I want to thank you again, Mystic, for taking your time and going someplace where you can get the internet and coming on with us.
Remember, it's
And
not my time. I'm taking God's time to do this.
this is God's time to do this. That's right. That's right. Very well said.
And hopefully this
Oh, this.
Wednesday I will have internet again at home.
Okay. All
It's been
right.
a it's been a full week tomorrow
Yeah.
without internet because there
I've
aren't
been
enough
there.
work because there aren't enough workers to get around to me for at least a week.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, this is
Right.
this is part of the Great Reset, the collapse, and frankly, people are stopped working because they finally realized there is no profit in working anymore.
Well, anyway,
See you.
I do want to thank you, Mystic,
Yep.
for coming in and helping me do this.
Yeah, and
Because
thank you for
I
Walter for helping us both.
yes, Walter, thank you for becoming part of the R Ranch Airgun Fun Channel Live family. You're most welcome to be here, and again, all the rest of those who have been viewing, um, showing 8 viewers.
Told you it was going to
Show,
grow, Brian.
I see 2 watching on live stream, but 1 watching on Facebook. I mean YouTube. So I don't know. Thank you anyway for being here, everybody, and indulging us and enjoying this time with us and learning and journeying into the Bible. And we will be here Wednesday. You're on YouTube also, Walter. What's your channel?
The Walter McKinney channel.
Walter
McKinney channel.
McKinney channel.
McKinney
I'm
channel.
on I'm on YouTube. Oh, maybe he's saying he's the one on the YouTube side watching.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, you have to remember that I don't count because I have to close my watching tab or it causes feedback.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. You're on here with me. If you were
Yeah.
in the chat, that would cause a little bit of
Yeah,
problem there.
which is why we have a private chat. All right. See you
Well,
then.
okay. Yep. Okay, Mystic. You have a good night, and thank you again. And God bless you. And we'll see you Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Okay.
And everybody, again, thank you for being here. Walter, thank you for coming by and becoming part of the Our Ranch Airgun Fun Channel family. Like I said before, you're more than welcome any given time. Anytime that we're live, you're welcome to come on. We hope to see you here. So, and to the rest of everybody that's been watching, I want to say God bless you. And y'all know the rest. Have a great night.